Who are the best spinners in this World Cup? And why is it obviously Dhananjaya De Silva? No, obviously taking the piss a little bit there, but this is a tournament where spin will play a huge part. But how good are the actual spinners that have turned up? We've decided to rank as many of them as we can into a tier. So these are the best and also probably the most middling of the road and worst spinners of this World Cup.
This video is brought to you by Wicket Cricket Manager.
So who has done what? That's the best place to start, right? Well, this is all the spinners by average and economy since the last World Cup. The size of the circle is how many wickets they have. Let's do a quick tour of the board, shall we? First, it's worth saying that Adam Zampa not only has the most wickets, but also a fantastic average. And I've said this before, the man needs to hire Adil Rashid's PR team. Remember that Ashton Agar is now injured, but Australia were already planning on having Len McGrath in their starting 11. So Agar is no longer their backup, and you could see him in this part-time cluster. But on the good side of it, Bangladesh have three options, and two of them can bat, Mahdi Hassan and Shakib Al Hassan. But I want to point out Naseem Ahmed, who has the best economy of any player coming in. Of course, they would love a wrist spinner, but they are still actually illegal in Bangladesh. South Africa is a team I've talked a lot about in terms of spin, partly because it's such a lovely combination. Shamsi attacks and goes for runs, and Maharaj doesn't take many wickets and he doesn't go for many runs. It would be much better if one of these guys could actually bat. Pakistan's two spinners are not ideal. Mohammad Nawaz is actually going okay, but Shadab Khan isn't getting any wickets at all. I should point out that against World Cup teams, Nawaz has 2 wickets in his last 6 matches. But Pakistan are doing better than New Zealand, who look quite terrible on this. Mitch Santner has the second worst average in this period, and while his econ is okay, it's not that much of a plus. He will be matched up with either Rachin Ravindra, who is just hanging on to bowling status with the second worst economy going around, or Ish Sodhi, who used to be out near Santner on the map until he took a sneaky 6 against Bangladesh. He just basically doesn't play ODI cricket anymore. And I know there's this feeling of just everything will come together on the night for New Zealand, but a lot has to go right for them to have one good spinner, let alone 2. India is really interesting when you look at this because Kuldeep doesn't look that good. But remember, some of this was in the middle of his funk. If we looked at the last 2 years, his numbers are simply incredible. You can see that Chahal was doing okay, but going for runs, which I suppose is kinda his job. And this area here is very much a wrist spinners cluster. Jadeja looks horrible here, but most of this was just after the World Cup when he wasn't doing very well. If you look at the last 2 years, he'd actually be closer to where Mahdi Hassan is. R. Ashwin is not on this list at all, but he's also quite handy. Sri Lanka are obviously now without Hasaranga, but they still have Tikshana, who is incredible. And of course they have Lalagay, who is obviously untested, but I think we've seen enough to at least know he can play. Not to mention the great DDS, who I mentioned at the top of this video, who for a bloke who could bat has an incredible record, especially when it comes to economy. I mean, he doesn't get wickets, but no one can hit him. What about the Netherlands? Well, this is not ideal. They have the spinner with the worst average and the one with the worst economy. They also have like 22 other part-timers and various junk spin in their lineup as well. And they're going to want a lot from Roloff and de Merwe with the ball. How bad does England look on this, by the way? Like, outside of Liam Livingstone, who has burgled a few in a low usage role, the two guys that are going to be the most important are not in great form. Adil Rashid is simply not the spinner he was in the last World Cup, and Moeen Ali has always been more of a 6th bowler in one-day cricket who works better with another option around him. Compare that to Afghanistan, who have a great lineup. No one can hit their spinners at all. But before we get too excited, there's something else I want to do now.
Have you ever wondered how I watch so much cricket? I use VPNs to log into accounts from all around the world. But because before, even simple things like when something exciting would happen in a match, I would rush over to social media, and when I got there, the clips would say something along the lines of, "This video is not available in your area." In fact, most of the coolest cricket stuff in the world at the moment is geo-blocked because some random board didn't sign a deal where you happen to live. If you're a hardcore cricket nerd, the only way is to have a VPN, and we suggest Surfshark. They will give you the speed of your favorite quick bowler. They're as inventive as a T20 batter after a bunch of dot balls, and they're as secure as a specialist wicketkeeper with the softest hands in the world. And guess what? The kind folks at Surfshark are going to give you a deal. Enter the promo code Kimber for an extra 3 months free at surfshark.deals/Kimber. There are probably other things that Surfshark can help you with, like data and identity theft and traceability and intrusive advertising. But for us, it is our best weapon against the evil cricket geo-block. Go to Surfshark and type my name in, Kimber, and get 3 months free today.
This is all the spinners against the other qualified teams. The Afghanistani bowlers hold up okay, but remember, they don't play as many as the top-ranked teams as some of the other sides do. But I didn't really show this for them. Adil Rashid is very notable, especially because of how much he has played. He just doesn't take the wickets he used to and is really struggling when it comes to runs. Adam Zampa struggles a bit when compared to the better teams, and as someone who has seen his entire career, I think it's fair to say while he's often really good, he's never quite at that, what Cricket Australia would call, elite level. Shakib Al Hasan holds up completely. If he can bowl at this tournament, he'll be good at it. And Dhananjaya De Silva, do you see him? Do you see Dhananjaya De Silva? Still a star. But yeah, we need to talk about these guys at the end. Jadeja comes in somewhere closer to Mahidi Hasan or Mohammad Nawaz if you just look at the last 2 years. So I think that is less of an issue. But Shadab Khan is a real worry. I've said for ages, he profiles more like a finger spinner than a leggy, but this is profiling like a shit finger spinner. And Mitch Santner is a huge concern here as well. He is the only New Zealand spinner who is guaranteed to play games. We know he's a very clever player and experienced inside India. But you can't look at this and just think everything's going to come together magically for him. So now we've done all this, how do we rate these spinners? It's probably better to have them in tiers. Tier 1 is Kuldeep Yadav, Rashid Khan, Shakib Al Hasan and Mahesh Theekshana. The Sri Lankan mystery spinner hasn't played as many ODIs, but I just completely rate him and I think his form holds up everywhere. Plus he can bowl anywhere from the first over to the 45th. His flexibility from a spinner is almost unheard of. Tier 2 is Adam Zampa, Tabraiz Shamsi, Keshav Maharaj, R. Ashwin, Ravi Jadeja, Mahidi Hasan, Mohammad Nawaz. I think the South Africans speak for themselves, especially considering a lot of their record comes on South African pitches that are not for them. I think Zampa has been fantastic since the last World Cup, but the more I look at his record, the more I don't think he should be in Tier 1. Ashwin on record overall should be lower, but I just don't feel good dropping him down to one of the other tiers. And as I said before, Jadeja's record is actually very similar to Mahidi, who I really like, over the last 2 years. And I feel icky about having him too low down. Mohammad Nawaz, I was on the fence about. His numbers suggest he should definitely be in this group. Within this tier, I'd probably have him towards the bottom. In tier 3, it's kind of the bowlers I don't really know what to do with. Well, Lalage and Mujib. And it's kind of for different reasons, right? Both of them have the numbers, so it's not a problem there. I worry about Mujib against better players who can milk him a little bit. And I've always worried about that, especially in ODI cricket. Well, Lalage is just because he's so young. Yes, he looks incredibly composed, but it's still a big role for him. Tier 4, I have Dhananjaya De Silva, Adil Rashid, Moeen Ali, Muhammad Nabi, Glenn Maxwell, Shadab Khan, Rolla Fandamerva, and Mitch Santner. Rashid and Santner are the two who could outperform this, and by a lot if they get their act together. But they're also not in this tier by accident. Roloff basically doesn't bowl in one-day cricket anymore. He's a part-timer in T20, and he's been getting some tap. But at his best, he's certainly better than the tier below. In tier 5, you have Leon Livingston, Rachin Ravindra, Joe Root, Aiden Markram, Iftikhar Ahmed, Aryan Dutt, and Shariz Ahmed. You could throw kind of any of your part-timers or your 6 bowlers into this. It's not a great sign that the Dutch have 2 spinners on this list in this tier, but to be fair, anyone in tier 5, yes, we might call them junk spin occasionally, and sometimes they will bowl junk spin. But in this kind of a tournament, they could win you games or even get on a bit of a roll. They would probably struggle to give you plus overs if they had to deliver more than 5 consistently. But that's not really how these sorts of guys should be used. So overall, England and New Zealand are really going to struggle unless at least one of their spinners massively steps up. Australia now only has Glenn Maxwell, or whatever is left of Travis Head, as their second spinner. India will be hoping I'm right about Jadeja's recent form. And Sri Lanka has perhaps the best replacement to Hasaranga you could find. I think World Cups in Asia are not always won by spinners, but I think they're kind of lost by spinners, if that makes sense. You may not need the best spinners to win the tournament, but without good quality, consistent international quality spinners, you're probably not going to be close enough to win it in the first place.